and he really had a lot of energy, and I
It
guess
could have been the moment the world lost Michael J. Fox forever. During the filming of Back to the Future Part 3, a dramatic hanging scene turned into a real-life emergency. For the sake of realism, Fox decided to shoot the sequence without the safety box that supported his weight. He used only his hand to keep the rope from tightening around his neck. On the third take, something went terribly wrong. He slipped. The rope snapped tight, cutting off the blood flow to his brain. For several agonizing seconds, he dangled unconscious while the cameras rolled, until director Robert Zemeckis noticed something was off and shouted for help. That decision, made in an instant, may have saved Fox's life. Had Zemeckis acted a few seconds later, the outcome might have been irreversible. But what most people don't know is that this near-death incident was only a shadow of something far more devastating. At that very moment, Michael J. Fox was fighting a silent battle that would define the rest of his life. Even as he worked grueling 18-hour days on film sets, he was hiding a diagnosis that would eventually change the public's perception of him and of Parkinson's disease itself. Behind the charming smile and quick wit was a man staring down a challenge unlike any he'd faced before. This is the untold story of Michael J. Fox, the hardship, the hope, and the legacy of a man who refused to let his future be written for him. Before he became a household name, before the red vest and the DeLorean, Michael J. Fox was simply Michael Andrew Fox, a kid born on June 9, 1961, in Edmonton, Alberta. His life began in a world of discipline and movement. His father, William Fox. Michael was immersed in a lifestyle shaped by routine and regular uprooting. The family moved constantly, from city to city, from school to school, following William's 25-year career. By the time Michael had reached his early teens, he had already lived in 5 different towns, including North Bay and Chilliwack. The only consistent element in his life was change. These relocations taught Michael far more than geography. They instilled in him a remarkable ability to adapt, to quickly read a room and adjust to new surroundings. Each new school brought the pressure of starting over, of forging new friendships, and avoiding the awkward spotlight that follows a new student. His response? Humor. He learned to defuse tension with quick wit, to win people over with charm before they had the chance to judge him. It wasn't always easy, but it was effective, and it became his greatest survival tool. In 1971, when Michael was 10, his father retired from military service, and the family finally found a sense of stability. They settled in Burnaby, a suburb of Vancouver, British Columbia. For the first time in years, the Foxes unpacked their belongings with no thought of moving again. Like many Canadian boys, Michael dreamed not of acting, but of ice hockey. Inspired by stars like Bobby Orr, he devoted himself fully to the sport. His energy and dedication were unmatched. On the ice, he gave everything he had, skating with determination and vision. But as the seasons passed, reality began to sink in. His friends shot up in height and muscle. Michael didn't. He stopped growing at just 5 feet 4 inches, a stature that became a frustrating obstacle in a sport built on size and strength. The realization was painful, a quiet end to a dream he had nursed for years. He wouldn't become a professional athlete. The NHL was out of reach. But in the ashes of that dream, something else was waiting, something unexpected and life-altering. Music came first. Michael taught himself guitar and spent weekends jamming with friends in makeshift garage bands. The stage felt natural, the spotlight familiar, even thrilling. But it was drama class at Burnaby Central Secondary School that would unlock something even deeper. One teacher in particular noticed his comedic instincts, his timing, his presence, and encouraged him to audition for a new sitcom being developed by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. In 1976, at just 15 years old, Michael took a chance and auditioned for the show Leo and Me. The producers were searching for a small actor to play a 10-year-old boy named Jamie. Ironically, the same physical trait that had ended his hockey aspirations, his height, suddenly became his greatest advantage. But understood, he wasn't a new kid anymore. He was exactly where he belonged. The success of Leo and Me wasn't explosive, but it was steady, and in the world of television, consistency often proves more valuable than hype. Michael, playing Jamie, quickly became a recognizable face on Canadian television. His youthful look, combined with his natural charisma, won over both viewers and casting directors. For a teenager with virtually no formal training, he was a revelation. Between 1978 and 1979, Michael began appearing in more productions, including the TV movie Letters from Frank, where he played a troubled boy grappling with his father's addiction. The role was intense, mature, and far removed from the light comedy of his earlier work. It showed a different side of him, and people noticed. By 17, he was earning around $1,500 per episode, a significant sum of the time. His name started appearing in Canadian entertainment magazines. Casting agents began requesting him by name. In a country where young actors often had to claw their way through years of struggle for recognition, Michael was already becoming a standout. But for all the early success, he wasn't content. Michael joined the stage production of A Shadow Box at the Phoenix Theatre in Vancouver. The Pulitzer Prize-winning play dealt with themes of mortality and grief. Michael was cast as Mark, a young man dying of cancer. It was his most emotionally demanding role yet, and he was just 18 years old, the youngest in a cast of seasoned actors, most at least a decade older. The play ran for 6 weeks, 8 shows a week. The pay? Just $200 per week. It was a sharp contrast from television earnings. But this wasn't about money. It was about something deeper. Night after night, Michael stood on stage and stripped away every layer of ego and artifice. The performance required total vulnerability. He could no longer rely on quick humor or youthful charm. He had to live inside the character's pain, to sit with mortality in front of a live audience. The critics were impressed. They didn't expect that kind of emotional depth from someone so young. And Michael himself walked away transformed. For the first time, acting felt like more than just a job or a pathway to fame. It felt like a calling. That same year, something even more drastic happened. Despite growing success in Canada, and even being offered a leading role in a new series that would have paid $2,000 per episode for 22 episodes, Michael made a choice that would change everything. He turned it all down and moved to Los Angeles. At just 18 years old, he left behind security, reputation, and a budding career in Canada for the unknown world of Hollywood. He had only $500 in savings, no industry connections, and parents who were understandably worried he was throwing away a sure thing. His agent warned him that Hollywood didn't tend to embrace unknowns, especially not ones who didn't fit the typical leading man mold. But Michael wasn't listening to doubts. He had one goal: to make it. He found a tiny apartment in West Hollywood for $200 a month. His diet consisted mainly of bologna sandwiches and Bargain Brand cereal. He struggled with loneliness, with doubt, and most painfully, with hunger. The glamorous vision of Hollywood he had dreamed of as a teenager was nowhere to be found. The city was ruthless. Auditions were few and far between, and by 1980, buying stale bread to survive. He even sold his couch piece by piece to cover rent. During this time, he auditioned for over 100 roles and landed none. The silence after each failed audition was deafening. Rejection became a daily routine. He began to question everything: his talent, his decision, his future. But still, he didn't leave. Then, in 1980, a small opportunity arrived. Michael landed a minor role in a Disney comedy called Midnight Madness. He played Scott Larson, a bratty college student, and appeared on screen for less than 5 minutes. The job paid $2,000 for 2 weeks of work. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep the lights on for now. Still, this role didn't open the doors he'd hoped. No new offers came in, no calls. By the end of the year, he was once again broke and disillusioned. Looking back, Michael would later refer to this as his rock-bottom intro to Hollywood. Then came a turning point that would mark the beginning of a new identity. Late in 1979, Michael faced a problem he never anticipated. When he attempted to officially join the Screen Actors Guild, he discovered that someone had already registered under the name Michael Fox. It wasn't a common name, but in a city brimming with aspiring actors, even uncommon coincidences happened. He needed a new name, something simple, something professional, something that still felt like him. At first, he considered using his real middle name, Michael A. Fox, but something about it didn't sit right. He worried it sounded too pompous, too formal. Worse yet, he feared critics would turn it into a joke. Michael, a fox, a headline just waiting to be written. Then inspiration struck. He thought of actor Michael J. Pollard, a memorable character actor best known for his role in Bonnie and Clyde. The J felt distinctive, familiar, but different enough to stand out. And just like that, Michael J. Fox was born. The change cost him $100 in registration fees, an amount that nearly emptied his wallet at the time. But it was worth it. That new name would soon appear in his first credited role in a Hollywood film, Midnight Madness. It was a quiet beginning, but a beginning nonetheless. Over time, the name Michael J. Fox would carry weight far beyond his early expectations. It would become synonymous with charm, resilience, and, eventually, courage in the face of unimaginable adversity. But in those first few months of the 1980s, all Michael knew was that he was still broke, still mostly unknown, and still chasing a dream that seemed to be running further away from him. Then, everything changed on a single phone call. It was August 20th, 1982. Michael was 21 years old and more than $30,000 in debt. He was close to eviction. His phone bill was overdue. He was selling off his final belongings just to survive. If the call had come a few days later, he might have already packed up and returned to Canada. But it did come. On the other end of the line was his agent, Bob Schulenberg, and he had news that would alter the course of Michael's life forever. He had landed the role of Alex P. Keaton on a new NBC sitcom called Family Ties. Michael had auditioned for the part months earlier. The first audition had been shaky. He was nervous and nearly flubbed the opportunity. But a callback in June turned everything around. He ended up beating out more than 500 other actors for the role, including the fast-rising Matthew Broderick. The show was originally pitched as a lighthearted look at liberal baby boomer parents raising their kids in suburban Ohio. Michael's character, a briefcase-carrying teenage Republican obsessed with Wall Street and Ronald Reagan, was meant to be a secondary figure, a foil for the idealistic parents. But from the moment he appeared on screen, audiences couldn't get enough. Family Ties premiered on September 22, 1982. Within a year, it was pulling in more than 30 million viewers per week. Fox earned $5,000 per episode, nearly $100, 000 for the first season alone. And just like that, he went from nearly homeless to one of television's fastest rising stars. But it wasn't just about money or fame. For Michael, NBC executive Brandon Tartikoff had originally objected to casting Fox, claiming he didn't have the right look for television. Too short, too unconventional. He reportedly said Michael was the kind of face that would never appear on a lunchbox. Years later, Fox had a lunchbox custom made with his own image, which he sent to Tartikoff with a note that read, "This is for your crow." By the time Family Ties ended in 1989, Michael J. Fox had won 3 consecutive Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actor in a comedy series. He had also earned a Golden Globe. But the true legacy of the show was something deeper. Alex P. Keaton had become a cultural icon, the embodiment of a new generation's political values. While the show's original focus had been on liberal ideals, it quickly pivoted around Fox's character, who represented the new face of conservative ambition in the 1980s. He wasn't just funny, he was timely. His obsession with money, power, and Reagan-era economics mirrored the national mood, and audiences loved it. Commentators would later say that Alex P. Keaton wasn't just a sitcom character. He was a symbol of an entire decade. And at the center of it all was Michael J. Fox, still only in his 20s, carrying the show on his shoulders with effortless charm. But the biggest leap in his career was just around the corner, and it would catapult him from television star to international movie legend. By late 1984, Michael J. Fox had already become a television sensation. His portrayal of Alex P. Keaton was so popular that NBC's writers had reshaped the entire direction of Family Ties to highlight his character. But while he was conquering primetime TV, something much bigger was brewing in the world of film, a project that would forever redefine his career and elevate him into international superstardom. The movie was Back to the Future. Initially, Michael wasn't even considered for the lead role of Marty McFly. The part had already been cast. Eric Stoltz, fresh from his critically acclaimed performance in Unmasked, had been chosen by producers to play the time-traveling teenager. But something wasn't working. After weeks of filming, director Robert Zemeckis realized that Stoltz's interpretation of the role was too intense, too dramatic. He lacked the comic timing and natural levity that the film needed. The tone of Back to the Future demanded a lead who could balance emotion with irreverence, who could be both relatable and iconic. And Stoltz, despite his talent, wasn't the right fit. It was a difficult decision, one of the hardest of Zemeckis' career. But on January 10th, 1985, Stoltz was let go. The studio had already spent a considerable amount of money filming scenes with him, yet they were willing to start over from scratch. That's how much they believed in the film's potential. The producers returned to their original choice, Michael J. Fox. There was just one problem: he was still committed to Family Ties. Taping schedules were tight, and the show's producers weren't willing to let him go. But Michael wanted the role, and he wasn't going to let a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip away. What followed was one of the most grueling work schedules in Hollywood history. From mid-January to mid-March 1985, sometimes later, on Fridays, the pace was even more punishing. He'd rehearse all afternoon, film 2 episodes in front of a live studio audience, and then head straight to set for an overnight shoot. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford. The crew sometimes had to carry the 24-year-old actor to a trailer between takes, just so he could nap for a few minutes before returning to camera. At one point, he became so disoriented from exhaustion that he mistook a movie prop for his personal camcorder while on a Family Ties set. And yet, despite the chaos, he delivered. Over and over again, his portrayal of Marty McFly was electric. He brought a rare blend of youthful energy, comic precision, and emotional honesty to the character. The chemistry between him and Christopher Lloyd, who played the eccentric Doc Brown, was immediate and unforgettable. From the moment audiences saw the DeLorean hit 88 miles per hour, movie history was made. Released in July 1985, Back to the Future became an instant classic. It earned nearly $400 million worldwide on a budget of just $19 million. Critics praised its clever script, or aesthetically significant. But Fox didn't stop with Marty McFly. In the sequels, he showcased even more of his talent. He played not only Marty, but also Marty's future son and his 19th century ancestor, Seamus McFly. Each character was distinct, adding layers to his performance and proving his versatility. The impact of Back to the Future went far beyond the box office. It changed the landscape of pop culture. Phrases like 1.21 gigawatts, where we're going, we don't need roads, and references to the DeLorean time machine became cultural landmarks. The film's success also cemented Fox's status as a global star, not just a TV actor, but a full-fledged movie icon. Only a month after Back to the Future debuted, Michael had another hit, Teen Wolf, a low-budget comedy about a high school basketball player who discovers he's a werewolf. Was released in August 1985. Though it didn't carry the prestige of Back to the Future, it became a financial success in its own right, earning over $80 million worldwide. There was still a young man trying to catch his breath. The double workload had left him drained. Then came Light of Day, 1987, a rock drama co-starring Joan Jett. Though less commercially successful, the film marked one of Fox's first steps toward deeper, more emotionally grounded roles. Big City, 1988, that truly shook audiences' expectations, portraying a fact-checker spiraling into substance dependency amidst New York's high society chaos. Then came Casualties of War, 1989, a Vietnam War drama directed by Brian De Palma and co-starring Sean Penn. Fox played Private Erickson. It was also one of the most difficult experiences of Fox's career. Filming in the jungles of Thailand, enduring harsh conditions, and navigating the film's harrowing subject matter took a toll. Yet the result was some of the finest work he'd ever done. Critics again praised his ability to humanize roles that might otherwise be lost in the chaos of a war narrative. The film became a family favorite, earning strong box office returns and helping to introduce Fox's work to a younger generation. By 1999, he returned to voice work with Stuart Little, playing the tiny mouse with enormous heart. The film was a massive hit, earning more than $300 million globally. It was followed by another voice performance in Atlantis, The Lost Empire, 2001. A romantic comedy about a big city doctor stranded in a small southern town, was light and endearing, earning $54.8 million. Even Teen Wolf, though critically lukewarm, beneath the laughter, the applause, and the accolades, something was quietly breaking. In 1991, while filming Doc Hollywood, Michael J. Fox noticed a subtle twitch in his left pinky finger. At first, and life-altering, early-onset Parkinson's disease. He was just 29 years old. The words didn't land all at once. How could they? Parkinson's was supposed to affect people decades older. It was something associated with slowing down, with old age, not with a vibrant, physically expressive performer at the height of his fame. At first, he told almost no one. He buried the fear, the confusion, and the grief under layers of denial and work. He smiled for cameras. He acted as if nothing was wrong. But privately, the tremors spread from his pinky to his entire hand. The changes were subtle enough that most people didn't notice, but he noticed. Every day, in every movement, he turned to alcohol, not to celebrate success, but to dull fear. In interviews years later, submerged in silence, staring down the weight of a future he didn't understand, he described feeling like he had to hit the lowest possible point before he could begin climbing back up. On the outside, he remained the energetic star America had come to love. On the inside, he was unraveling. Between 1991 and 1998, Michael J. Fox became a master of illusion, not on screen, but in real life. As his Parkinson's symptoms quietly progressed, he learned to outmaneuver them with precision and calculation. On set, he timed his dopamine medication to perfection, leaning against furniture to anchor his body and steady his movements. His pain was constant but invisible. To fans and co-workers, he was still Michael J. Fox, bright-eyed, lightning fast with a punchline, always on. But the man behind the image was exhausting himself to keep the mask in place. Then, in 1992, just 1 year after his diagnosis, he hit a breaking point. To keep hiding or to fight back. With her help and the grounding presence of their young children, Michael made the hardest decision of all, to stop drinking. He got sober. He signed on to star in a new ABC sitcom called Spin City, playing Mike Flaherty, a fast-talking deputy mayor of New York City. The role was tailor-made for him, witty, high energy, charming. But this time, before he accepted, he made a bold move. He told the truth. But if they still wanted him, he was in. They didn't hesitate. Spin City premiered in September 1996 and was an immediate hit. Critics praised it. Audiences loved it. And once again, Michael J. Michael appeared on the cover of People magazine and publicly revealed that he had been living with Parkinson's for 7 years. He was just 37 years old. The cover headline read simply, Michael J. Fox, his fight against Parkinson's. The timing was not a publicity move. Paparazzi had started to snap photos of his tremors, forcing his hand. But he took control of the narrative. And the public, far from turning away, rallied around him. The stigma surrounding Parkinson's began to break. People stopped seeing it as a disease for the elderly. They saw it in Michael's face. Broke down in tears during interviews. Charlie Sheen was brought in to replace him, but no one could truly fill the space Fox left behind. Before exiting, he filmed 3 final guest appearances to give his character and his fans proper closure. But Michael's next chapter wouldn't be about entertainment. It would be about legacy. In January 2000, but instead of choosing between those versions of himself, Michael decided to create something new. He launched the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research, not as a symbolic gesture or a celebrity vanity project, but as a full-scale assault on the disease that had changed his life. His goal wasn't just to raise awareness. It was to find a cure, and he intended to do it in a way no one had ever done before. From the beginning, the foundation was different. Rather than functioning as a typical nonprofit that handed out grants to general institutions, the Fox Foundation took a hands-on approach. It invested directly in research projects with the highest potential, regardless of where they came from. It cut through bureaucracy. It broke down silos between pharmaceutical companies, universities, and government agencies. It focused on speed, transparency, and results. By 2006, The Guardian called it the largest private funder of Parkinson's research in the world. And it wasn't just large, it was strategic. The foundation built partnerships with leading scientists. It funded clinical trials, biomarker studies, and novel drug development projects. It listened to patients and caregivers. And through it all, Michael remained the heart of the operation. Not just a face on the website, but an active participant in strategy, public speaking, and even lobbying in Washington. In 2010, the foundation launched what would become one of its most ambitious efforts, the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative, PPMI, a long-term study designed to identify biomarkers, biological signs of disease, that could help detect Parkinson's earlier and treat it more effectively. Years of work, hundreds of millions in funding, and the contributions of thousands of volunteers eventually led to a landmark discovery. In 2023, researchers announced the development of the alpha-synuclein seeding amplification assay, a test that could detect Parkinson's disease with 93% accuracy by identifying abnormal alpha-synuclein proteins in the spinal fluid, proteins considered hallmarks of the disease. The results were published in The Lancet Neurology, one of the world's most respected medical journals. The breakthrough was more than scientific, it was symbolic. It marked a turning point in the global fight against Parkinson's. Clinical trials that once took years could now be conducted more quickly, with more accurate screening and better targeted therapies. In September 2024, the FDA issued a letter of support for the test's use in future research and clinical applications. It was a moment that echoed far beyond labs and conference rooms. It generated $316 million in revenue, including $33 million from private donors. These were not just large checks from billionaires, though those came too. They were everyday contributions from families, patients, and fans who had been inspired by Michael's journey. Some fundraising efforts were awe-inspiring. In the summer of 2024, a group of 4 men, including one living with Parkinson's, biked 2,800 miles from California to Hawaii over 41 days in what they called the Human-Powered Potential Challenge. Their story captured hearts, and their effort raised $41 million, thanks in part to an anonymous donor who offered to triple match every dollar. Even small campaigns made a big difference. In 2016, a raffle of limited edition Nike sneakers raised $6.75 million across just 2 events in Hong Kong and London. Each year, walks, runs, auctions, and grassroots efforts across the world kept adding fuel to the movement. This level of sustained public engagement for a single disease was nearly unprecedented in modern medical history. The Michael J. Fox Foundation didn't just reshape Parkinson's research, it redefined what was possible when passion, science, and transparency worked together. But while the foundation soared, Michael J. Fox never allowed Parkinson's to become his identity. Instead, he used it as fuel for advocacy, for optimism, and even for his return to acting. After stepping away from Spin City in 2000, many assumed his time on screen had ended. Few expected him to return, let alone perform at the level he had before. But Fox wasn't ready to walk away. He just had to rewrite the rules. In the years that followed, he began choosing roles that accommodated his condition, characters whose mannerisms and challenges could naturally integrate the physical realities he now lived with. He leaned into the vulnerability, using it to create depth. What many saw as a limitation, he turned into a tool of authenticity. One of his earliest returns to television was on the acclaimed series Rescue Me, where he played Dwight, a sharp-tongued, wheelchair-bound man navigating a complex marriage. His performance was fearless, witty, raw, and unfiltered. It earned him his 5th Emmy Award. He followed that with a recurring role on The Good Wife, portraying attorney Lewis Canning, a brilliant litigator who manipulated jurors' sympathy using his own illness. The character was cunning, complex, and layered with both charm and menace. Over multiple seasons, Fox turned what could have been a one-note performance into a masterclass in nuance, earning 6 Emmy nominations in the process. He appeared on Curb Your Enthusiasm, bold and refreshingly honest. In 2009, he produced and hosted the ABC Special Adventures of an Incurable Optimist, a heartfelt documentary that took him from the United States to Bhutan in search of what makes people truly happy. It wasn't just a travelogue, it was a spiritual reflection on hope, resilience, and gratitude. The special earned another Emmy nomination and reminded audiences that Fox's greatest gift had always been more than his timing. It was his spirit. Even as his symptoms worsened, he kept showing up, creating, and connecting. In 2020, he made his last major television appearance in The Good Fight, reprising his role as Lewis Canning one final time. His performance was as sharp as ever, though it carried the unmistakable weight of someone who had been fighting for decades. For 5 years, he stepped away from acting, focusing on his health and his writing. But in 2025, he surprised the world again. He returned to television in the Apple TV Plus series Shrinking, joining the cast for season 3. It was a meaningful reunion, both personally and professionally. The show had been co-created by Bill Lawrence, who had also helped launch Spin City years earlier. And just as notably, Shrinking already featured a character with Parkinson's, played by Harrison Ford. On set, the cast and crew took every precaution to support Fox's needs. Scenes were carefully timed. Dialogue was rehearsed in ways that allowed him flexibility. And once again, he delivered. The choice to return wasn't just about proving something to the industry. It was about reminding himself and the world that his story was still being written. But it wasn't just his acting career that saw a renaissance during this period. His rise to fame and his diagnosis, all told with candor, humor, and unflinching insight. Readers expected celebrity anecdotes. What they got was something much more profound. A philosophy of hope forged in hardship. He followed it with 3 more bestsellers. Always Looking Up, 2009, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Future, 2010, and No Time Like the Future, 2020. Each book offered new layers of his story, from the painful moments to the quietly beautiful ones. They weren't just memoirs. They were meditations on time, change, and acceptance. 3 of his audiobooks earned Grammy nominations. Always Looking Up won the Grammy for Best Spoken Word Album in 2010. His voice, literally and figuratively, had become a source of comfort and inspiration for millions. In his most recent memoir, Fox was more honest than ever about the toll of living with Parkinson's for over 3 decades. He wrote of the falls, the surgeries, the days when he could barely move. He admitted that optimism didn't come as easily as it once had. But what made the book powerful wasn't blind positivity. It was earned perspective. He spoke not just of surviving, but of learning how to live fully within new limits. Then came an honor that encapsulated his entire journey. On January 4th, 2025, Michael J. Fox stood at the White House as President Joe Biden placed the Presidential Medal of Freedom around his neck. And researchers, those who were fighting beside him to bring an end to the disease. In the audience were familiar faces: Denzel Washington, Bono, Anna Wintour, and alongside them, Fox once again surprised the world. While at an age where many choose to slow down, he is preparing to launch a new project, not a film role this time. The heart of the book revolves around one single year, 1985. That was the year Michael was filming Family Ties by day and becoming Marty McFly by night. A time when, as he puts it, time went strange and took me with it. In this book, he shares stories never revealed before, behind-the-scenes moments, fleeting thoughts, seemingly small details that ended up shaping an entire journey. The book was co-written with Nell Scoville, a longtime friend and board member of the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Their collaboration brought a perfect balance of depth and Michael's trademark humor to the narrative. It doesn't feel like a typical memoir. Instead, it reads more like a conversation between past and present selves, between the artist and the man, between the public hero and someone learning to live with very real limitations. In Future Boy, Michael also dedicates several pages to the life philosophy he's held onto for more than 3 decades of living with Parkinson's. It's not blind optimism, but a kind of resilience where hope doesn't stem from expecting things to get better, but from choosing to be better even when they don't. He also reflects on the falls, both literal and metaphorical, even when it's no longer easy. Now 64, Michael hides nothing. He is more open than ever about the fact that each day brings its own challenges. His steps are slower. Speaking takes more effort. When asked by a journalist how he maintains that spirit after everything, he simply smiled and said, "Falling is inevitable, but flying, that's a choice." His close friend Ryan Reynolds once said of him, "Michael doesn't fall because he's weak. He falls because he's never afraid to leap." Though his steps may no longer be steady, Michael J. Fox continues moving forward, one step at a time, one smile at a time. Not just as an actor, an author, or an advocate. Fox, the man who once said, "The future is whatever you make it," has truly created a future filled with hope for millions around the world. In a world obsessed with youth, speed, and perfection, he gave the disease a human face, and then, through sheer honesty, gave it less power. Millions who once suffered in silence found strength in his voice, in his transparency, and in his stubborn refusal to let illness define him. Looking back, his life reads like fiction. A teenager who left Canada with $500 and a dream. A young actor on the verge of homelessness who answered a phone call that changed everything. A boy too small for hockey who became one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. And yet, the most compelling chapters weren't written on sound stages or red carpets. They were written in operating rooms, in therapy sessions, in trembling hands that still turned pages, still typed scripts, still held on to life. They were written in conversations with scientists late into the night, in speeches delivered with effort but filled with purpose. I don't have a choice whether I have Parkinson's, but I do have a choice about how I respond to it. And with that choice, over and over again, he chose courage. He chose to laugh, even when it hurt. He stood firmly in the present, with grace, grit, and unwavering truth. And he helped shape the future, not just of medicine, but of human possibility. Because of him, science accelerated, and dream of what's possible at 88 miles per hour. But now, when they Google the man behind the character, they don't just find a star. They find a story, a fight, a movement, and they find proof that no matter what life takes away from us, it can never take away our power to inspire. Michael J. Fox showed us that even as the body slows, the spirit can still run free.